I do like the idea that you can monetize a skill or follow a passion, but I'm not sure necessarily that they're solid business ideas.
So apparently 47% of adults have thought about starting a business.
You've got to understand that there's got to be a pain you're solving somehow and that you can properly solve it.
Another thing to think about is try not to get too emotionally attached to an idea.
Get yourself some good advice, and there's the first problem.
Yeah.
Good advice is hard to come by. I've got this awful sense of deja vu.
I know. It's funny, isn't it, how when you're recording a podcast, hitting the record button is a pretty critical part of the process.
It was a button near the record button. It was kind of next to it.
Well, that was the best podcast we ever recorded.
I know.
I mean, the wisdom in it and the knowledge and
it was a cracker. I think it was our apogee.
Probably never to be repeated.
Yeah.
This is just a tribute.
What a shame that we didn't record it because I pushed the wrong button. Oh well.
So, there we go. Here we are.
And if it hadn't been for that, we could have talked about you slicing your hand open and being in and out of A&E in 2 hours. But that's just old news now, isn't it, really?
Well, no one's heard it. It's news that nobody heard.
It was old news for me because
if you do, it's like that, maybe it's the modern equivalent of if a tree falls in the woods and no one hears it.
Yeah.
Does it make a sound?
Does it make a sound?
If you do a podcast and nobody
must
records
be like telly in the 50s before they could record it. You had to watch it live, and that was it. Couldn't watch it again.
We could open up the curtain and let the people watch.
We could have been streaming on air at least. That would have been a start. But we didn't have it plugged in for that.
Well, we did actually have it plugged into stream. That was
the
problem.
It was press the button for going on air.
Except it wasn't connected to the internet.
Apart from that, minor little problem. So take 2 then. Hence why we've got this foreboding sense of deja vu. Do you think it works out better that we've rehearsed it and done the whole episode already?
I can't really even remember what we talked about.
I never can. Well, on that front, let's give it a go, shall we? Hello and welcome to another episode of the SME Growth Podcast from Wellmeadow. This is episode 155, and we're recording it this time because we did it earlier today and we thought, let's just keep this one to ourselves by me pushing the wrong button. So here we are, actually recording episode 155. It's 15th January on release date, and we've had 3 episodes running up to this. So Indeed. What was last week then, Mr. Buckle? 154.
154 was Tom coming in to talk about fitness discipline.
Tom Meehan, my personal PT. Trainer. And I said, don't just talk about the usual January, you should get fitter and lose some weight and all that stuff. Try and give us a few techniques from all of his years of experience on how to get people to actually stick with it for longer than the month of January and how to tap into a different way of thinking about exercise and stuff. So that's what he did. So that's very good.
Toblerone and Guinness, was that?
Yeah, perfect. It's a bit like puppy training, really. You just got to give a reward, So anyway, that was Tom last week. 153. We're back at the beginning of the year.
Was 2026 a four?
Richard made a hand signal then for those listening. That was what you're going for, holistic?
Prediction. Yeah, I was going.
Oh no, you're going crystal ball.
Crystal ball.
I'm wondering what the hands are doing.
There's
For listeners, he just made a crystal ball shaped
hand movement. So 2026, a look ahead. Our predictions for what workplace will look like in 2026.
Now we did this a year ago, didn't we? And we marked our homework.
We were pretty.
Some of them.
Yeah, we were there or thereabouts. 7 out of 10.
I think we did 7 out of 10, yeah. It'd be interesting to see whether in December 26, it seems an awful long way at the moment, but it'll soon be upon us, how well we did. Week before that was Christmas Day. We actually had listeners/viewers on Christmas Day.
Commitment to the cause.
So what was episode 152, Your Highness?
It was the King's Speech, given that...
Brackets, not really.
Not really. Because it landed on Christmas Day.
Because we always do Thursdays.
That happened to be this year. So in 7 years' time, look forward to another one. Or 8 years probably.
Yeah, 8 years and stuff.
Or 6 years, whichever way it goes.
Or it could be 5 if there's 2 leap years.
Yeah.
It's not one this year, is it? Don't think so.
Don't know. Anyway, it falls on a Thursday again.
So King's Speech, it was a fantastic 10-minute oratory
Was it 10? I thought it was 5. Obviously felt like 10.
It felt like a lot longer.
I think it was 5.
And you were staring down the barrel of the lens throughout. Such a professional.
It was very, yeah.
Sparkly lights in the background. You'd even put your suit on.
I did put a suit on. I tried my best.
I was coming to a wedding. I was very impressed. Very impressed. So they were our last 3 episodes. And today we're going to talk about, in episode 155, starting up a new business with a great idea and the pitfalls of that. But before we get to that, I thought, given that we've just gone over the end of year and Spotify, like all of these other services, gives you a kind of a year in review, 2025 wrapped.
Yep.
And I hadn't looked at it before, so I had a look at it. And did you realise that the number of new audience members had gone up by 869%? No, you didn't know that. You said it earlier.
So last time, in the last time we did this, you asked me a load of questions about who was the top person and who was the best podcast.
And you're going to know all the answers. I've taken all the fun out of it. So that was that top. What? So, Mr. Buckle, can you guess what was the most listened to episode in 2025?
Ooh.
Can you remember from
If I had to hazard a guess of the 150 odd so episodes, probably finance for financial managers, non-financial managers.
How did you know that? That's incredible. Not 150, surely. We only done it last year. So I suppose they could have listened to an old episode.
Yeah.
I get where you come from.
The archives.
Yeah. So episode 134, as it turns out, it was recorded last year, and it was finance for non-financial managers. I remember when we talked about that episode, we thought, I can't believe we've got to 134 and we've never done that, because it's such a common requested topic generally. So anyway, that did very well. We found out as well from our 2025 Wrapped that 10% of our listeners click play within 24 hours of a new episode landing. 25% listen to 2 episodes in a day.
I think we realised that was because it probably listened to it in the car.
In the car, and it rolls on to the next one. Yeah. They listen twice as long to our episodes as the average of all the others. And we're in the top 15% or so of shows that get shared. All in all, must be doing something right. But the bit I thought was quite amusing, as you now know, is that it tells you, of all your listeners on Spotify, what are their top artists for general music, podcasts and audiobooks.
Wow, I wonder who these could be.
So I'm going to ask you who was the second most popular, just to see if I can trick you. So top artist from our listeners elsewhere on the Spotify platform.
Taylor Swift, which is...
It confused you, that
confused me. Well, I spent Christmas with, obviously, family and nieces.
I thought you were going to say Taylor Swift, just to follow on.
Yeah, just, I do this for fun. No, so she... not she.
Right. See, you were true.
So my nieces were really into Taylor Swift. So in my head, there's teenage girls singing Taylor Swift a lot.
Yeah. And the demographic on our Spotify.
So I wonder whether we've totally just missed the mark here, or
maybe there's a lot of business owners and managers who, according to our Spotify demographics, are sort of 35 and 40 up Swifties. To 65, are actually secret Swifties. But in the top 5, we did have Oasis and Coldplay, which I would have thought is more that demographic I would have expected. Top audiobook, not The Alchemy that you thought I mentioned when we recorded it, but without recording it.
Pablo Cohen? Or
not that one. Alchemy by Rory Sutherland, who you said you
I like Rory Sutherland. He's on a lot of YouTube and a lot of clips and things.
Right, well, his book was the most listened to by our listeners.
So it's got a good soundbite. It's got interesting tales and interesting nuggets. But he's been around a bit, I think.
Yeah, I think he had some soundbite like, not all rational things are successful and not all successful things are rational.
He's got this great idea for a cafe which just serves bacon sandwiches, only brown sauce, and the only drink you can get is builder's tea or champagne.
What's the...
And that's his thing. He goes, that'll be a roaring success. I bet someone's tried it, but that was just his thing. It would be so
bacon
unique.
Sandwiches, brown sauce, and builder's tea.
Or champagne.
I was with you at that point. I could understand that's niching down heavily, but the all champagne lost me.
But then I think just because that's your only option, isn't it? You're either going for a celebration or a bacon sandwich and a cup of tea. And I think
do you go to a cafe for a celebration?
But I think it would be so unique, wouldn't it? That you're almost like, right, I'm getting a bacon sandwich and £100 bottle of champagne.
Can I just pick you up? Unique is an absolute. You can't be so unique or very unique. It's just unique. Okay. You can have...
It will be unique.
You can be a grammar pedant or have friends, but not both. Okay. So anyway, Rory Sutherland, who comes up with lots of sound bites. We should throw in a sound bite every episode then. See how long that lasts.
Well, we try.
Yeah, one of his, I mean.
One of his.
They'll be better than ours. Top podcasts, top 3 are fairly predictable. Mash them up into any order you want, really.
Yeah, Rogan.
Joe Rogan, Dari
CEO,
CEO, and the rest is politics. So probably the top 3 podcasts in the world happen to also be the top 3 amongst our listeners. You haven't bucked the trend, dear listener.
Yeah.
James Sinclair was number 4, though. James Sinclair's business podcast. I must admit, I've never listened to that.
Should probably be reassured that they are the top 3, isn't it? Imagine if there was just some really obscure, weird podcast. You'd think, who are these people that are listening to us?
Well, like Flute for Beginners,
yeah, well,
wood carving.
I was thinking a little bit more.
You're going less tasteful.
Yeah. Anyway.
A true crime podcast was in there as well. Yeah. Anyway, there you go. And Andy, in other news, our post bag has overfloweth. As you pointed out, it's a small bag.
It's a small bag.
But we had Chris contact us after the year in review episode, which was just before Christmas, I think it was. And we'd done a bit of bashing on the budget because of all the various tax increases and the national insurance and national living wage, and we were being a bit down in the dumps about it all. And he challenged us on whether we were being political about that. Was it a political point we're making anti-Labour? And so I responded. Everyone who, so far anyway, everyone that writes in a letter gets a personal response rate. It's not the first, but they're in numbers such that we can respond to them. I said, we are here to support the interests of small and medium-sized businesses, regardless of what government is in power. We're there to voice the business perspective, really. Not quite championing them, perhaps, but certainly...
We're lobbyists, yeah.
Are we lobbying? Yeah. Maybe we should go into that game. Yeah, anyway, before we go down that road, so I absolutely made the point that this isn't a political with a big P, probably more with a small p, just in terms of the politics of small business. Governments of all hue have managed to screw it up, really. It doesn't take a particular colour to do a bad job of it. Whether you go back over time and some of the decisions that we made over the last 20, 30, 40 years, they've all added up to being...
Uni party.
Yeah, exactly. We need another political party. But he did ask, anyway, how's the FTSE doing? Almost as if it's a kicker to say, there is some good news. And he's absolutely right. That is good news. We've had 2 good years on the bounce now for the FTSE. But from our perspective, the SME world, that's not really much help because it's 80% of the turnover of FTSE 100 companies is made in overseas markets anyway. So it doesn't really relate to the UK. Good that UK companies own them and that they're listed, but it doesn't really help our SME.
Well, there is a theory that the FTSE is... on the rise as people look to hedge against potential bursting of the AI tech bubble, which is a lot more American company-based.
Well, they're trying to just get out before the supposed peak. And of course, whether it is or not. Well, that'd be good news then, if that's the case. Well, especially if it goes into smaller businesses, AIM-listed businesses and all that. But FTSE 250 is a bit bigger. How much market cap do you think you need to get into the FTSE 250? Ooh, he says.
FTSE 250 market cap. I don't know, $1 billion?
Correct. See, I chose a number that's guessable at least. $1 billion.
Really?
Yeah, apparently.
Okay.
And turnover at the bottom end is about 300 million. So if there's anybody out there thinking, God, we're nearly a FTSE 250 company. Well, if you're approaching 350 million turnover and $1 billion market cap, then you are. But I can't imagine many of our listeners are quite in that space.
Next year, Rodney.
Next year, one day, Rodney, we'll all be millionaires. Right, so episode 155. Now, this came about, this topic. Meg suggested this. Thank you, Meg. Beginning of the year, lots of people, I say lots of people, I don't know. Some people are thinking about starting a business. Have you got a fact? Have you got a fact on that, Richard? He says, as if he's about to be surprised.
Well, it may surprise you to know.
This must be what it would like for professional people who actually rehearse and stuff.
Rehearse it, yeah. It's a bit weird, isn't it?
Yeah, it wouldn't work really. Can't do this again.
So apparently 47% of adults have thought about starting a business. So that's...
Now, the first time you said that an hour ago, I was surprised then, and I'm still surprised now.
That's a lot of people.
That's a shockingly high number of people. Wow, of all adults.
Yeah.
Wow, and you think, take out...
I don't know how far it means, how far you've gone in that thought process. I mean, I know quite a few people say, I'd love to start a business. I think it probably
do you think just as a side hustle, bit on Etsy or something? Or Vinted?
Well, so the survey continued to say about a third of the people were looking to raise cash for cost of living, so side hustle-y type thing, and a third of people were looking to just monetize a skill that they had. And then at the younger end of the demographics, 18 to 24-year-olds, about 40% of them just want to do something they enjoy. So
the idealistic young. Nothing wrong with doing something you enjoy, especially if you're good at it. If you can enjoy something you're good at.
Prepared to pay you money for it as well.
That's the kicker.
that's the bit that counts.
Apart from the last bit, that's a perfect business idea.
Well, I think this might be a Rory Sutherland thing about talking about, the whole idea of follow your passion. Is normally, quoted by some 60-year-old who made his money in mining or something. It's some boring thing, but has made their money and now can go, I've got the means to follow my passion. Whereas if you're
funny how people listen to you when you're a multi-millionaire and you ask for some access to a market or something. It's tricky though, isn't it, when you're starting out? I do like the idea that you can monetize a skill or follow a passion, but I'm not sure necessarily that they're solid business ideas, other than for maybe earning a bit of side hustle money. Well,
some other stats say that, and this is new material. I didn't quote this in the last episode.
You're teasing it with new research.
About 5% of people in the UK have already started their own business. So maybe a lot of people aspire to start a business, but not many people actually get around to actually.
Right. Well, it's 1 in 10 though.
Actually doing it.
1 in 10 of the people that say they would like to do, and I guess that doesn't mean limited companies. That's just
sole trader.
And it could be a bit of Vinted, eBay, Etsy.
Whatever. And then this survey saying over a third want to start their own business in the future, so 35%. So it's roughly around 35-40% of people want to start their own business. Fools.
Now those listening to those stats carefully, I don't know if they're thinking, hang on, 47% want to start a business, 5% have, and 35% are going to. What are the other 7% saying then? They haven't started it, and they're not going to start it, but they want to.
Just maybe fear.
Just dreamers.
Fear of the unknown, dreamers.
They'd like
I know people who said they want to start their own business, and it's just. I think there's a certain.
But they don't plan to.
Well, I think everyone thinks that anyone that owns a business is like Scrooge McDuck, just sitting there, just like diving into piles of gold coins and swimming around in it somehow. The physics of that work, but
I don't think it does. It could be quite painful.
So I think there's some idealism around starting a business. But that being said, we would never want to put someone off.
I think it's great.
Standing on their own 2 feet.
We can give. In fact, this episode, we definitely don't want it to come across as in any way discouraging. It's very encouraging. But the tenet of what we're about to say is to say, be careful. Maybe get yourself some good advice. And there's the first problem. Good advice is hard to come by. But think carefully about what that first business idea could be. And in fact, as we discussed an hour ago, which we'll repeat, if you've got a second and third idea that are ready and waiting in the wings, you're more likely to give up on the first one if it doesn't work and move on rather than cling to it like a man to a mast of a sinking ship.
So the first sort of trap, I suppose, isn't it, is that I've got this great idea.
The great idea trap.
And everybody,
as soon as you say, I've got this great idea, what's the natural response anybody's going to give? Right. Yeah, great. That's a great idea.
Yeah, it's a good idea. Yeah.
That's lovely.
So I think as well, we're very polite in this country.
Well, you're not.
I'm not, but
people are.
I've been trained. I've been specially trained. I didn't grow up here. That's my excuse. I've not been domesticated.
You're a Southern Hemisphere product.
Exactly. Product of the jungle. Child of the jungle. Anyway, I think lots of people don't want to be offensive, which is probably a nice thing. So when somebody comes to them and says, I've got this great idea to start a business, the default mode is to say, oh, really? Yeah. That sounds good. Yes, yes. Mm-hmm. I agree with all of your assumptions. Yeah. I agree with all these things. And I think to the uninitiated, that sounds like a nice thing to do. But it really isn't if it's not actually a good idea.
I think it can be cruel. I think it really is. And it's unfortunate. People talk about being cruel to be kind, but they're almost being kind. That's not our phrase, actually, is it? Yeah, by being kind, they end up being cruel. Because you let people follow a path which you can see is not a wise path, and yet you don't stop them. Because you're worried about offending them or taking away that kernel of enthusiasm that they're showing. I think if you've got a good... Maybe you don't give them an answer, you don't give them your opinion, but through... And you talked earlier about the fact that in the position that people who are listening to this are likely to be, owners and managers of businesses, they are more likely than average Joe to be approached for an opinion by someone else. So you have a responsibility. It doesn't mean to judge on it. You're not there to do that, but at least to use your experience to ask some searching questions.
Yeah.
And let the other person draw their own conclusions.
Yeah. So yeah, it's one of those. It's like I was saying before, the X Factor. You know, the kid that goes on X Factor and thinks they can sing, and they're terrible.
And the audience can tell.
And everyone tells, and they become almost a mockery. And it's like, yeah, but my mum said I was the best singer ever. Yeah. And it's like, well, yeah, but
yeah. I've met a few people who were told in their early to mid-teens that they were going to be a professional golfer because they were very good at golf. And sure enough, professional golfers are very good at golf. But there's a difference between being very good at golf and being professional golfer level of very good at golf. Playing off scratch isn't good enough, even if you are 15. But unfortunately, it means that you run the risk of giving up on your studies and focusing everything on your golf, only to then not make it, and you haven't got a plan B. Footballers, same. Kids that are told they're going to be professional footballers, go to the academies, and then get spat out.
So I think the message here is to say, if you have the great idea, then keep listening, because we'll give you some ideas as to what to think about around that, how to test your assumptions, etc. If you're on the other side of it, where you're being asked to give an opinion, you want to encourage the entrepreneurialism, but be not critical, but critique or test some of the assumptions that are underlying the idea.
So there's a few questions I remember hearing on a podcast I listened to. I think it was a SaaS business one, but it doesn't matter. The principles apply across. Where the podcast always started when they introduced a new guest, and they had a new one every week, with the same three questions. And the first one was, what problem are you trying to solve? Second one was, how are you going to solve it? And the third one is, how are you going to make money out of that?
Yeah.
And I thought, you could probably come up with other ones, but that's not a bad starter for three. Let's start with them. So if you're approached for some advice, at least ask, what problem are you solving? Because one of the traps that great idea owners have is that they can list all the features and all the functionality and all the outputs of their business without necessarily properly having addressed why somebody else would want those things. Almost taking it as a motherhood and apple pie. Well, because you would, if I gave you this product, of course you'd want to, push these buttons or use that thing. So asking that first question, what problem are you trying to solve? And if you're not trying to solve a problem, it doesn't mean necessarily that there's no business in it. Nobody was asking for a car, as Ford said, when if you ask someone better form of transport, they want a faster horse and all that. Or no one was asking for an iPhone when one didn't exist, an MP3 player you could talk to someone else on and all that stuff. So it's not without exception, but most businesses help solve a problem. Yeah. And that's the whole value proposition model, isn't it, that we've talked about before? Yeah.
There's a podcast on that somewhere. I can't remember where, but in the annals.
Exactly. Next to the business model.
Making sure what you offer has enough of a Venn diagram overlap with the needs of your target market. I
remember seeing, I didn't tend to watch Dragon's Den, certainly not more recently. I've heard but in the early days I remember watching one, and the guy had come along with a fuel can, a 5-litre petrol can, with a vent on it, so that as you poured it, it didn't go glug, 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 glug and splash everywhere.
Turn on the side.
And I think it was Duncan Bannatyne, who's a sailor, and knew how to fill up an outboard engine with it. Turn it on its side. Yeah. Turn it on its side, doesn't go glug, glug, glug. And he demonstrated this. They were only pouring water in the studio, thankfully, but the guy was making a right meal of it and splashing everywhere with his demo. And Duncan Bannatyne stood up, turned it on its side, poured it out, not a splash.
So what's the problem?
And the guy was so deflated. You just wanted, I'm sure he wanted the ground to open up and swallow him up for it as well. But just fundamentally.
But how have you got that far? How have you got that far?
And back to your point, someone must have said, that's a great idea. Yeah, I get that problem all the time. When they don't at all. They've never tried to fill up how many people fill up from a small jerry can anyway? You don't use it in cars so much these days. So
well, you get it with what's it called? Antifreeze, don't you? And screen wash.
Sort of thing, yeah.
I just put a hole in the bottom of the...
See, there's another solution.
Well, the can.
You can do it that way.
I come to fill it up and there's nothing in there. How's this work?
So, you got to understand that there's got to be a pain you're solving somehow, and that you can properly solve it. Yeah. It may well be that your solution half solves it. Not good enough. If there's a problem you've identified, you can't say, I can make it slightly less painful for you. You've really got to solve the problem to catch the headlines. And then, importantly, work out how to make money out of it. Yeah. Now, the other problem is market size. Yeah. And we've said before, not only the question, is there a gap in the market, but is there a market in the gap? Yeah. And how do you find that out?
Well, and this is where I think... I'm trying to remember what I said last time.
It doesn't matter. No one heard it.
No one heard it. So a lot of this can be around. Yeah, there's very rarely a very neat package of information available to help you assess the size of your market. So you're going to have to do some experiments, test some assumptions, etc. And this is where we talked before about Lean Startup, which was a book written by Eric Ries, probably late 90s, I would say. So the work that he was doing in that, normally people write a book about a decade after they were doing what they were doing.
By which time was out of date anyway.
So that was very much around the sort of minimum viable product, build a minimum viable product, do some tests using very cheap, I think 5-cent adverts on Google Ads.
Back
so that kind of dates it a little bit. And I think the point I was trying to make was that style of testing your assumptions probably has been out of date for a long time. We now live in the world of iPhone apps, etc., etc. Everything's got to be quite highly polished. A lot of people don't trust it. Web 1.0 style website isn't going to really work anymore. So I think that whole MVP mantra has been quite hard to replicate in recent years, up until more recently, probably the last 12 months, where AI is now enabling you to actually create an app, create a website very, very quickly, which can enable you to test some of these assumptions and just see what you get.
And I was, over Christmas, to fill some of my sort of downtime, I was playing around with one of these vibe coding packages, Base 44, another one's called Replit, isn't it? But I was using Base 44. And I was getting it to create a piece of software that would help me find running routes on Strava, which would draw a picture as I ran the route. And I think people use it cycling as well. So this thing called Strava Art. It's quite some people have it as a hobby. It's it's one of those things. And I use it as a way to motivate myself to go out for a run on a cold, dark evening when I could really not be bothered. I think at least if there's, rather than just pounding the streets as usual, why don't I go and try and run the shape of a stick man or whatever, a Christmas tree or something. So I was using this software to be able to produce an app which chose an area by postcode, chose a shape, and then it tried a million different ways of laying the shape onto the thing at different scales and rotations and positions, and score each one and give me the best fit. And within the space of not much more than a week, I've got a pretty slick looking, and this is the point that you're making, how do you make it look good, a pretty slick looking app that does exactly that. Now, it's hard to solve the problem I'm trying to solve because you're constrained by how many streets there are near you, right? And that's a different problem. But the point is I was able to test it and get it to a point where if I gave that now to someone also keen on that, if that's a problem they're trying to solve, then it would look the part. Now, I didn't do this to make money, and I don't think there's a massive market in it, but it was interesting to see how quickly I could come up with something that would pass muster as an app. Interesting. As it got I suppose the next thing, we were going to talk about this as well, but the whole, is there a market in the gap? You do a bit of research. I found that there was one other product doing this already, so probably not a lot then, and there's not a lot of people talking about it. But also, what price point do you have? Because that comes under the third question of how you're going to make money out of this. There may well be a massive market out there prepared to pay $1 per route, let's say, in my model, but not much of any value that I can, at a level that I can make money out of. As soon as you start charging $10 a month or more, then maybe that demand
drops off,
evaporates. Because you're not helping someone in their business, are you?
No.
And I think helping people in their private lives, you've got to look at, what do they spend on, say,
but it's almost a sort of faddy thing, isn't it, maybe? So it's the sort of thing you do because you see other people doing it around New Year's or doing that. I could do that, and then it disappears again.
So it's not a business model for sure. So if anybody's listening out there, don't nick my idea. You won't make any money of it.
But that's like that kid that sold pixels, wasn't he? Just had had a million pixels to advertise, and you could buy 200 pixels, or it's like a piece of internet lore / arts now. But people were buying up, I'll buy 1,000 pixels off you to put my logo on, and then someone else would buy 200, and someone else would buy, and he just sold them all for $1 a pixel.
Oh, wow, okay.
I thought, it's a great idea, isn't it? Make $1 million. It was back in the day when websites were, but it's just this big piece of, it's just this website with all these different logos in it.
Yeah. And that's how he sold the real estate.
Yeah.
Why would anybody
Digital
go
real
there?
estate. I don't know. It was some local thing. Yeah. But anyway.
So the point, I think, is to do something that tests the market demand and whether you're going to actually ask. And I think the key point is don't ask people whether they would.
Yeah.
But ask them to actually do it. And don't tell them it's a test.
Yeah.
It's the real thing.
They need to think it's the real thing.
Otherwise, they're going to come on and say, it's a bit like Kickstarter. I'd pay way more on Kickstarter than I would in real life because I want to encourage someone who's come up with a new idea or inventing a new thing. Whereas that's not a real test, is it?
So things like wait lists as well can be good indicative.
Yeah, is that
demand?
It's probably not as good a test as getting.
Well, I think if you put it behind buy now and then said, right, we're not quite ready yet.
Right.
But
so they
sign up for the wait list.
So someone's clicked a button thinking this is now going to cost me money, and it says, sorry, not ready yet.
Yeah.
Join the wait list. Now, Zappos did something around this, which you referred to as Wizard of Oz earlier, where you pretend that something's automated and happening behind the scenes, but actually you're just
doing it manually. Yeah. So rather than have to build all the systems, you're actually just testing. You're testing demand.
And it doesn't matter whether you're making money on it at this stage.
Yeah.
You're just purely doing it to test demand. And Zappos were trying to test the idea of whether people would buy shoes online.
Yeah.
It's an American company. And lots of people told them that no one would ever buy shoes online. So they put the website up with no stock. Yeah. And every time someone ordered something, they'd go down the shops, buy a pair of shoes from the high street shop, and post it off. Yep. Lost a fortune while they're trying it, but the point is they established that, hang on a minute, people want this service.
Yeah.
So then they started holding stock and doing it differently.
So validation, think about what problems.
Don't believe people's opinion. Yeah. Test it for yourself and get people to part with money or go almost to the point of parting with money.
And I think the other thing as well another thing to think about is try not to get too emotionally attached to an idea. That has been the downfall of many aspiring entrepreneur, because they're so emotionally involved with the idea that they can't see the wood for the trees when it comes to... Well, it's
that follow your passion thing or monetize a skill. If you haven't got something else to go to, if that one doesn't look right, or you can't pivot away enough, then you might be tempted to carry on longer than would be sensible.
Sort of sunk cost fallacy type of...
You mentioned earlier as well about the idea of putting an objective in an envelope and sealing the envelope and waiting 3-6 months, whatever, and then opening it.
And seeing whether that matches with reality.
Yeah. I think that you just make excuses when stuff hasn't met the target. If you're that passionate about it, you just, yes, but. Now, we did this with Magic Minutes. How many years did we carry on developing that piece of software that still, Rodney, hasn't made us a million?
This will be the thing.
Yeah, but when we had this feature, when we do that thing, when we add more on the marketing, and it didn't, And everyone around us was telling us so. But
and I think it's you only really hear about the successes.
Yeah, it's true.
And so you have this kind of success bias where, it was really hard for us, and then we just carried on, and then it happened. And then what you don't hear is the other 900 stories of, we kept changing things and we carried on, and then we ran out of money.
Well, and maybe that last point is the one that we ought to close on, which is how much money does it take to get to success? And having a decent business plan is something people often shy away from because it sounds all very boring and numbersy and accounting-like. But actually having a bit of a view as to how much money is it going to cost to set this thing up, but then perhaps a bigger number, how many months/years worth of losses do I have to fund before it actually turns a corner? And that's the hard bit, isn't it? Getting an honest number in your head for that. Yeah. And then asking, well, have I actually got that amount of money? Am I prepared to lose that? On a bet that may not pay off.
Well, you wouldn't start a journey without looking at how much fuel you've got in the tank.
Well, I think some people do. That's the problem, don't they?
So if you don't want to run out of fuel, you've got to make sure it's a recharging or petrol station.
Oh, that's a very modern reference there. You got a hybrid as well.
I've got a hybrid.
Yeah.
Going to get taxed for it as well.
1.5
double tax. But yeah, I think it's. The plan is almost, it gives you some good markers, doesn't it? Okay, this is what it gives you. And also I would always say, I don't think people, when they're building a business plan or forecast, tend to put in as many assumptions as they, you should try and, if you've got a sales line, that's going to be made up of quite a few assumptions in terms of volume, pricing, product mix, timing, et cetera, So try and break those out as much as you can, rather than just say, I think I'm going to do $5,000 of sales next month, 10 the next month. Because then you can drill into each of those and say, well, what am I actually, maybe I'm getting the price right, but the volume's just not there. Okay, so maybe I need to think about some other channels.
Mix, I've got 2 or 3 things I'm selling, and it's always the cheap one that I'm selling, or the low margin one. And
so it's you can, having those assumptions really spelt out in your plan means that you can actually not only have the benefit of the plan, but start to look at the variance when it goes wrong.
Good point to close on. Thank you very much. Plan.
If
you fail to plan to fail, as they say. Do you know what? We've had to cut material out there in the second recording of it. I know. We had more to say because we rehearsed. This is bad news for listeners. They don't want to hear more of us.
It's the extended edition.
We better put that into the bonus content. Well, thank you very much for listening to another episode of the SME Growth Podcast. And feel sorry for me and Rich, we've had to listen to it twice because we did it earlier on as well. Thanks a lot again for sharing it with your friends and colleagues. As Spotify tells us, many of you have been doing. So thank you very much for that, and good luck with your business.